Hello everyone, and welcome to Magma Rages episode 21. As usual, I am joined here by Pandemonia. How are you doing, Pandemonia?
Oh, I'm good, as always.
Ah, that's good. That's good to see. No worries in your life. But we have lots of exciting news today, and we're gonna start off with talking about the AMA that Ben Bro did over the last few days. So. There's quite a bit of information that's come out of this. Some of it new, some of it not so new. Do you want to just take us over some of the first few key points from his AMA?
So basically, obviously, some people asking for spoilers. He obviously said no spoilers. Basically, he talked a bit about. I mean, there was people asked things about like the cards that they're considering, like you know, moving to wild, and then basically there were discussions around. Like I think he mentioned cards like Ice Block, what preparation, Innovate, Malagos,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
even Stone Tusk Boar. I think he said was actually one of the most limiting cards. I think,
yeah.
which
Okay,
I
well,
find quite interesting.
yeah, we can work our way through this AMA.
Yeah.
Just to get through the key points. So, no card spoilers until 24th of July, as was already sort of specified. They seem pretty happy about the game at the moment, saying that the time is average game time is around about where they want it. No plan for console support, which is unsurprising. I mean, they say it's because easy enough to play on your phone and tablet, which is very true. And most people that own consoles probably have phones that they can play it on. So why do you need to
Yeah.
play it on your console? Um, and
I
it's
mean,
just it just introduces too many UI concerns. Like as a developer, I'm like, don't do that,
there's
don't
yeah,
do
a
that.
lot of random information about the things that are good.
Yeah,
Nothing too exciting. I think really,
yeah,
they're basically saying they have nothing to say about tournament mode. They want to help free-to-play players. They've been experimenting with random things, and Ben Brode's going to make another rap video. That's the cool part.
yeah. He did hint towards that. That wasn't strictly part of the AMA, I don't think, but yeah, he
Uh,
did hint towards that. Uh, the cards that you were talking about, it seems that they're not wanting to do any rotations into Hall of Fame outside of the sort of the beginning of years. So we're probably not likely to see any rotations until next year, the first expansion next year.
yeah,
Um,
which will
a-
shake it up. If they drop things like Ice Block, it
yeah, and
will.
it seems like cards like Ice Block, Preparation, Innovate, and Malygos and Stone Tusk Ball are cards they're considering. I mean, a lot of those cards are cards that are central to some of my favorite decks, like Miracle Rogue and Freeze Mage. So I would be a little
Yeah,
bit disappointed, but I can totally understand why they would want to move those into Hall of Fame, to be honest. As you know, I mean, they basically tried to kill Freeze Mage by getting rid of Ice Lance, and that didn't work. They tried to kill Miracle Rogue by getting rid of Conceal, and that didn't work. My biggest fear is that without those cards, the classes might largely become trash tier, especially like Innovate in Druid, right? Like all of
yeah.
their cards are pretty much balanced to Innovate. And if you get rid of Innovate, well, only really aggro druids are going to be particularly viable. Maybe the heavy ramp ones can get away with it.
Yeah,
Uh,
it forces you to build your deck differently, right? Because I mean, up to now, every Druid deck ran double innovate almost.
Yeah,
I
and,
don't
and,
think
and
I
all
ever
the
saw.
Druid cards are balanced to innovate. It's not like Druid is super imber right now, and you know, getting rid of innovate will just bring it back to normal power level. Like getting rid of innovate will drop Druid to below average power level, like
Yeah,
substantially. And I think the same is true for preparation and rogue. I think all their spells are very balanced to preparation. You know, like cards like Envenom Weapon, or like
well,
Sprint
Sprint.
and
Yeah, if we go back to
Sprint is the
Sprint.
obvious one, yeah. Like these cards should probably be cheaper if it wasn't for preparation.
Yeah, it'll be
Um,
interesting to see if they do, let's say, move, rotate, prep to wild. Will they make the other cards cheaper?
no,
But that feels like a lot of
no,
effort.
I definitely don't think they will touch the other cards. So
Yeah, so
what worries me is they would have to introduce a lot of powerful cards and whatever archetypes they want to push those classes to in that expansion in order to
you got
correct.
the park, you got the
Otherwise,
power creep, right?
well, otherwise we're gonna have an expansion where the class is just bad, and if they're just moving them to Hall of Fame, it then affects Wild, and if they're trying to support Wild, then it becomes a bit of a complication to balance.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something they have to consider. I mean, even Ice Block, right? Ice Block and Mage, like Burn Mage is also sort of built off Ice Block. Even Secret Mage sometimes has Ice Block in, so you're not really
Yeah.
left with many Mage decks that aren't using the card, which
Well,
is
to be fair, I think like secret mage can survive without it.
Yes.
Burn your Gunter discover mage and your freeze mage, they struggle without it.
Yes. I mean,
They
the idea
barely.
is that they don't want cards to be central to every single deck of the class, right? And that's kind of what they're saying with preparation
Yeah,
and ice block in particular. But and innovate as well. But it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I fear for those classes a bit in that
yeah.
that first expansion with when that happens. Whereas like we haven't really seen class cards rotating to Hall of Fame yet. You
Well,
know, we've only seen
we saw lots.
no
We
class
saw us
cards.
class cards. We saw Arslans.
Oh right,
We
sorry, you're
saw
true, true.
power
Power overwhelming.
overwhelming. We've seen quite a lot of class nerfs,
Yeah,
but
yeah, no, you're right. Conceal. Yeah, yeah, sorry, I forgot about
I mean
those.
conceal, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking more of like Rag and Sylvanas,
yeah.
being
Well,
like the
and as a
major.
Drake, those are the other three.
Yeah, yeah, being like
Then a
the
random thing that
headliners.
was thrown that they said no legendary totem card is an oversight. They'll see what they can do. So at some part there's going to be a legendary totem
Yeah, which means they're gonna want to push the totem synergy a bit more.
again.
Um, yeah, they could have just made Totem Golem legendary. That would have actually been good
Actually,
balance.
yeah, that is true.
It's a feels Batman legendary, like 2 mana
Yeah,
3/4, but the effect it would have had on the reliability of the curve probably would have made it good. Anyway, um,
yes. Moving on.
so yeah, there's not much
I
else.
mean,
The
not
game
much
mode
else. I
stuff I
mean, you can
think is
read. I mean, I think you'll link it there. You know, you can go read. I mean, it's on Reddit. It's on Hearth Poem. You know,
yeah.
there's a lot of places you can read it. I don't think we need to go through the rest of it, but I think we just covered the.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one other big thing is the game modes. It does indicate that they are working towards some other ways of playing ranked and some other kind of game modes. The big disappointment, I suppose, from our sort of competitive player perspective, is the no, the lack of information on tournament mode.
Yeah.
Um, but at least it's good that they're working on other ways to play the game and stuff, which is pretty important. And
At least they've
uh,
said spectator mode is that they acknowledge they can make lots of improvements because I've just seen like it seems every patch they introduce more and more spectator mode bugs.
Yeah, yeah, but the bugs are not an issue. It's like they need to make improvements because if you watch tournaments and stuff, there's so
Yeah.
many new like overlay things that they're doing. I mean, even just the hand flipping thing is kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah, that
Like,
should that should be like my feeling is that should be built into the
yeah,
game.
exactly. Like, there's so many things they can do to spectator mode, and as somebody that does a lot of casting, I definitely am gonna be happy to
But
see
that
that.
would
So,
that would like I'm not sure like they would probably do that hand in hand with tournament mode, right?
no, it doesn't have to
No,
be.
but I'm
I,
saying they would be
I,
quite linked
they can
though. I think.
definitely change the spectator mode long before they touch tournament mode, because
Yeah, they
tournament
can.
mode is like a really, really big thing. Like, people
Yeah.
really underestimate how difficult tournament mode is going to be.
No. Obviously, it's a lot. No, fair enough. You can probably. I mean, you can tweak the spectator mode. I mean, you can change the interface. And I mean, you could. I don't know. Things I'm still hoping for is where you can customize things. I mean, what I'm actually would like to is, think about this. If I can challenge you to a game, but no turn limit, well, no time limit, for example. You
Oh,
know, if
okay, so you mean like custom rules in
yeah,
games?
like those things, like custom
Okay,
games.
that thing I think is more likely to be hand in hand with tournament mode kind of thing, right? It doesn't have to be, but it could be.
Because, like, for
Um,
example, let's say I'm practicing with somebody, or we discussing or whatever, I might actually want, if you and I are playing, we can
yep.
just say, okay, no time limit for turns, because we know we're not just going to rope, we're discussing things or
Yeah, yeah.
we're practicing something.
Yeah, that is definitely would be a useful thing. Uh, and it would be interesting to see how long a tournament lasts if they didn't force people to have time limits and turns.
I mean, it'd be interesting because you could make like lightning tournaments, right? Where you make
Ugh,
like with
yeah,
Dorm, where you make it like you have to play every turn in under 15 seconds.
yeah, yeah. I would just
That'd
hope
be
that
pretty
doesn't
cool.
become the norm. That would be horrible.
No, not the
Uh,
norm. No,
yeah.
of course not.
But I mean, when you enter those kind of things, it's very common that custom rules can become the norm. It happens in
Yeah.
a lot of games to like adjust things as how people see the competitive game should be. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's all there really is. There's just some other random facts about Ben Brode if you're interested. But yeah, I will link it in the description. Um, and then next we're on to some of the promotional content for the the new expansion, Knights of the Frozen Throne.
I thought this was like, especially when they were saying, Knights of the Throne is a bit darker, they're going for more
Yeah.
serious, it's about death and things, and then they release these things.
Yeah, so I'll link this as well in the description for people to watch the video. But basically, an advert where the Lich King is opening a ice cream shop. Um, Following on from the video they did with the Lich King going for a job interview at Blizzard, he's now working towards adding things to his CV to get towards taking over Blizzard and the Hearthstone development team, which is seemingly what he wants to do, so that he can make himself super OP, I imagine.
Yeah, so it's like, what's it they call it? The frozen cone.
Yeah. So it's obviously in traditional Hearthstone style, it is very full of puns. And the nice thing they're going to be doing is, I believe this is at Comic Con, you say, but they're
Yeah,
going to
it's
be,
actually going to be an ice cream shop. It's
yeah,
actually they're actually having a little store at the San Diego Comic Con, which is actually pretty cool. When I'm assuming they're going to be giving away ice cream as opposed to selling it.
yes, it does say
Uh,
that they're going to be giving away free ice cream. It is very clearly
oh, is
stated
it? I
in
missed that.
nice
How
white
did
writing that there will be
how did I
free
miss
ice
free
cream.
ice cream? Ew,
It's like you're not even reading.
I feel like I missed that free. I missed free ice cream. How did I do that?
Yeah, so it's nice to see this kind of content keeping up the hype between now and the card releases, and it's cool that they're doing innovative ways of marketing the game. It's like really nice, right? Like even though we are still hoping for maybe a bit of a darker theme, or at least personally I am, it is still means they can do fun things with the videos, like they've been doing with the videos that have had Uther, Jaina, and Gul'dan in,
Uh,
right?
those would be
Like,
bad though.
what? No, those have been great.
They'd be cheesy as they'd be
Yeah,
so
but that's
cheesy.
like that's exactly what you expect. The like light-hearted
Yeah,
tone from Hearthstone. So like I think those have been great, and this is kind of following on in those steps where like the Lich King is just ridiculous. Um, if he was put into the real world, and that's basically what
yeah.
this is. So it's definitely interesting to see, and I'm hoping we're gonna see some more of this. But ultimately, I'm hoping that it comes out more of um, a dark chocolate kind of ice cream
Well, I said an
for
endless
this.
selection of two flavors.
Yes, yeah,
It's
but I mean
great.
it's just typical Blizzard humor in the
Exactly.
post. So
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
Free
the
ice
other
cream.
major news, moving back to a more local theme or local, um, yeah, moving to more local news at least. The ESL African Championships playoff finals are coming up this weekend. That's going to be hosted at Rush. I'll be there alongside Penguin, going to be casting the ESL African Championships finals. It's the top four players from the group stage that we saw compete over the last um,
Forever.
well, yeah, it was 7 weekends of play. We cast six of that. It was a very, very long group stage, and we've got the three Algerian players, Saliom, Exia, and Expert Summer, and the one South African player that made the top four in Scythe. So they're going to be playing off for their the first prize is, I believe, about $3,000. So there's quite a lot
Yeah.
of prize money on the line there, and we're going to be bringing that to you live from Rush, where there's also going to be a very exciting fireside. But we'll get to that. First of all, if you want to get in the running for the next season of ESL's African Championships. If you're an African citizen, so you reside in any African country pretty much, you can sign up on ESL's website to participate in the next round of qualifiers, which are going to be on the 29th and 30th of July. So not this coming weekend, the weekend afterwards. Um, and the top four players from that, I believe, will play off against the relegation or the bottom four players from last season to determine the eight players for next season. Not 100% sure on the relegation playoff format at the moment, but basically what you need to know is that you need to compete in the one of the two ESL qualifiers at least, and make top two, I believe, in those qualifiers. All the information will be on the ESL website. It's at both of them are at 3 o'clock British Standard Time. So I believe that's like 4 o'clock South African Standard Time.
Yeah. Four
Um,
o'clock is a South African Standard Time, which is Central African Time as well, I believe.
yeah, and there is. over $6,000 of prize money on the line for the next season. So once again, a lot of prize money on the line. And if you want to get your and dollars converts very favorably into almost every African currency. So
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
quite a lot of money. And ESL
Yeah.
have been doing a great job, and it's great that they're supporting so African Hearthstone this well, right? I mean, we've already got
Yep.
45 players signed up, and the sign-ups only really started a couple days ago for the first qualifier, and 24 is already for the second. So get in there, sign up, and see if you can make it, and then you will have your games cast by yours truly. Uh, and that then I will sit there and criticize your plays if you make bad plays. But if you can get to the qualifiers, I'm sure you can make good play. If you can, well, if you can get into the through the qualifiers to the season, I'm sure you can make good plays. So uh, go ahead. Pandemonia is going to be playing in those qualifiers, so
I mean, we
you could,
tried again.
yeah. So you could end up playing against him. You could deny him the opportunity to make the ESL African champs if you,
Again.
yeah. And then you can brag in our YouTube comments about how you're better than Pandemonia and you shouldn't listen to things he says.
Yeah, this is true. Yes.
Yeah.
I believe lots of people come to tournaments wanting to beat me, so that's another opportunity, right?
Oh, you sound like somebody else that is a little bit arrogant of the spring championships for my liking. Um,
No, not so arrogant, but people literally come to me like they tell me that they want to beat me.
oh,
Then
okay.
they've come up to me and say, "Oh, you know, Dale, everyone at this tournament wants to beat you." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Well, you see, when you're at a tournament, usually I want to beat everyone, so you're not
Yes,
special in that sense.
but people come
But
up.
I know what you mean.
I've had people come up to me and say, "You know, Dale, I want to beat you." I'm like, "Okay."
Well, if you enter these ESL African Championship qualifiers, you could easily end up playing against Dale from the comfort of your own home and beating him because he's had really bad runs in these ESL African Championship qualifiers. So it's
Yeah.
it's a good place to play him. Um,
Wow.
and another place you could end up playing Pandemonia is at the Kwese Fireside event that's going to be happening
Well,
this
events,
weekend at Rush
actually.
events. Yeah, so we're going to be broadcasting the ESL African Championships playoffs once again that we mentioned from this event at Rush. This is going to be in at the Santon Convention Center in Johannesburg, and there's over 30,000 rand worth of prize money and prizes to be won, including a gaming laptop sponsored by MSI. So the way the tournament's going to work is each day is sort of its own separate tournament in a way. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are each going to have Swiss rounds, cutting to a top four, and then the top four will play off for positions 1 to 4. First place in the day will walk away with 5,000 rand. Second place is, I believe, 3,000, and third is 2,000. And
Yeah.
if you get in the money on any of the days, then you're unfortunately not able to play on the following days unless you make first or second on any given Friday, on any given day, either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Then you enter into the playoffs for that MSI gaming laptop that we were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, it's gonna be
So
quite. Yeah, it's quite a
yeah,
big prize.
yeah, it is. It's going to be a very big tournament. There's a lot of good players coming from around the country. I'm going to be there to cast the ESL African Championships on the Saturday, as well as Penguin will be there. Panamania is obviously going to be there because at least it's relatively close for you compared to
Yeah.
me from Cape Town. So you're going to be there for all 3 days, I imagine.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, actually, I'm going to be there for all 3 days as well.
And also just a sort of a small thing that even if like let's say you don't rate yourself as a hectic competitive player, come in, jam, and even if you don't do too well on the main events, I believe there's going to be a lot of side events. There's going to be the stream of DreamHack Austin. Austin's going to no, oh not
Atlanta.
Austin, Atlanta. DreamHack Atlanta's going to be on. They're going to have a tavern there. I believe there's going to be some other Hearthstone related events. So it's all around just going to be a lot of fun. So I
Yeah.
think don't get disheartened if you don't think if you don't want to play a tournament, come along. It's going to be really great. I believe the a day pass is 50 rand and the weekend pass is 100 rand for all 3 days, the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's really not. I don't. It's not that expensive.
Yeah.
And I
Um,
don't think there's any entry fee for the actual Kwese Fireside. So
no, you just have
basically,
to
the
be at the
entry.
event.
you have to basically buy the 50 Rand for one day or 100 Rand for the weekend, and you're entered, which is a bargain if you think about
Yeah.
it.
Um, and as you were mentioning, there are going to be the side pods. So one of the reasons that we went with a Swiss format for the fireside gatherings is that one of the nice things is the way Swiss works is if you win first round, you'll play against somebody else that won, and if you lost first round, you'll play against somebody else that lost. So after a few rounds, you're hopefully going to be playing people of your own skill. So even if you're not very good and you lose the first 1 or 2 rounds, you don't have to stay in the tournament if you don't want to, but you can, and then you're more likely to be playing other players of your same skill level, right? So that's one of the great things to improve. So, if you get round one versus Pandemonia and you don't think you're as good as him, and then you lose, well, you might get round two versus another player that lost. Well, you will almost definitely get round two versus another player that lost, and then maybe that's somebody that is more at your level, as well as you were mentioning, there's going to be side events as well. So there's going to be pods that are going to be filling up throughout the day, and more like Swiss pods that are going to have hardware prize money. So
New
peripherals and
prizes,
whatnot.
not
Yeah,
hardware prize money.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, not prize money. Hardware as
Hardware
prizes,
prizes, yeah.
sponsored by the sponsors of the Fireside
Or
Gathering.
sponsored by the sponsors.
Yeah. Oh, unsurprisingly. So like
And also,
MSI and
I think the thing about Swiss as well is also not just the chance just to socialize and the fact that you get to chat to people. You can ask your opponents questions. You can ask anybody there. You can ask any of the experienced players. You can ask Dib or Penguin questions about casting. You can ask any of the players about it. A lot of times it's just a great chance to meet
yeah.
players you might have heard about or played online. And that's what's really great about these LAN events is, I honestly enjoy, the socialize, you get to chat with guys, when the guys come up from Cape Town, from Durban, and everyone's in one place. It's just really great, to see the community together.
Yeah, and if you're one of the folks that does listen to our podcast, then please come up and say hello to us.
It will give you a high five.
I have yet to meet any listeners in real life that I didn't already know, so that'll be pretty cool. I mean, we're still pretty new in this whole podcasting business, so that'll be pretty cool. And there's also going to be for very new players, if you listen to this podcast but you really don't actually know that much about, or you don't play that much Hearthstone, there's going to be an area for newer players with MSI PCs that are going to be provided, and the players are going to be able to play on those to sort of learn the ropes and maybe get a bit of coaching from players that are around, like maybe myself or Pandemonia when we're free on
Yeah.
the given days. So come along, it's going to be a really great event. I've got a little bit of a sneak peek at some of the decor, and it's looking really, really good. It's going to be like a fully kitted out kind of fireside tavern theme, and it's going to be really, really cool to see such an event in South Africa. And it's been a while since we haven't really had many events like this year. We just had the sort
Yeah.
of playoffs that
Yeah.
go with each of the seasonal playoffs,
Well,
which are obviously
this is
great
gonna
events
be
as
big.
well. But yeah, this is the one of the biggest event we've had outside of that the playoffs pretty
Yeah.
much ever in South Africa.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so I think definitely this is great. Even if you've just started playing Hearthstone, or even if you just want to learn how to play Hearthstone, come along. Like I
Yeah.
don't think you don't even need to know how to play. Hearthstone is one of those games. It's easy to pick up, slightly tougher to master,
Yeah,
unless you Kalento.
and Rush is also not just strictly going to be Hearthstone. There's going to
Yeah.
be FIFA. There's a FIFA
CS:GO,
tournament that's happening, CS:GO, and I'm
League
not
of
is it
Legends.
League of Legends? I'm not even
There's League
sure
of
what all those are.
Legends. There's Street Fighter.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a
it's a
bunch of
whole
stuff.
gaming festival, right? So if you're
Yeah,
into gaming and esports at all, come along. There'll be plenty of there, as well as plenty
and
of stores to buy
yeah.
stuff at from
It's at
the
It's at yeah. If we haven't, I think you can put links to the description. But it's at Sanson
yeah.
Convention Center this weekend, the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah, and if you are going to come along and play, then there is an enter now button for you to sign up, and that gives the admins and organizers a better idea of how many people to expect, so they can sort of adjust the schedules beforehand as much as possible to make things run as smoothly as possible. So if you are going to come down, please do sign up there and let everyone know that you're going to be participating.
Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're allowed to bring your dog, but you can tell them.
Exactly, and then they can tell their dogs.
Okay, I don't know what pets you own that own other pets, but that's Interesting.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's all the real news portion of today's podcast. We're just going to move on to the esports recap next. Um, Two major events happened over this weekend. Firstly, there was the Titanar event that happened in China. So this was an event that had a very long qualifying process. It had a Chinese preliminary process, an international online preliminary process, and then as well another Chinese domestic online preliminary playoff. Whew,
Yeah, there were
quite the
lots of
mouthful.
events. I think it
Um,
started. I think the qualifiers started beginning of this year, I believe.
yeah,
Like it
well,
started
it
in
started in
January.
May. No, it started in May.
There was one in January.
Well, the Chinese one started in May, according to
Yeah.
their website. So I'm just gonna go with that.
No,
So
one of the international ones. I'm saying one
no,
of
the
the
the international
internationals.
one was in June. Anyway,
Yeah.
so it cut down to a top 16 Grand Land finals over the weekend with a few international players, some of which, like Mage and Ant, that were still in Shanghai from the Spring Championships. So uh, at the end, the in the top eight, there were um, four Chinese players, I believe, or Chang FR, I think, is also from the international side, but is a Chinese player. Um, so there was four Chinese players, Mage, aka Wanda, and
Well,
Green
Mage
Sheep.
is not Chinese. He's APAC.
No, no, I'm saying four Chinese players and those other four.
Oh right.
Yeah. So Mage is from New Zealand, obviously, and he ended up actually winning the whole thing, beating AKA Wonder in the final. So a good performance for him coming off the back of the Spring Championships, where he unfortunately missed out on the top four, losing in the
Yeah.
top eight there, which is still a great achievement. And he walks away with quite a lot of prize money. It was a $12,000 prize money for first place, which is quite a lot. 6,000 for second, 3,000 for third and fourth, and then fifth to eighth, 1,500. So that was a total of a $30,000 prize pool, which is a really big event. And there was quite an audience as you'd expect for these Chinese events. It's good to see that the Chinese scene allowing in more international players into their events, right? I think that's definitely something they're going to want to actually grow the scene there, as they want to get more of that competition. As
And
the
hopefully get a play into the World Championships.
yeah, well, the Chinese players have not necessarily been performing that well. Even here, where they had, um, let's say, the advantage of numbers to a certain extent, they kind of still didn't do that great. I mean, Ants lost in his top eight game, but I mean, AKA Wonder knocked out Green Sheep, so that was like a Western team kill in a sense, or a European
Western
team
team.
kill
Yeah,
in that
European team.
case, as AKA Wonder's
Yeah.
from Spain and
Yeah.
Green Sheep from the UK. And so yeah, then AKA Wonder, I know, flew back to Valencia, where the other major esports event from this weekend was happening, and that was DreamHack Valencia. So there was over 300 participants, if I'm not mistaken, for DreamHack
Yeah.
Valencia, which is quite crazy, playing through 2 days of Swiss um,
Within a
to
top
then cut to a
16, I
top
think.
16. The one big thing about this top 16, I would say, and this DreamHack that was kind of the standouts, is how many new names there were. There were not really that many notable or well-known names, right? You're just
Yeah,
talking
top
like
16. There were about like
Mitsuhide, Tyler, um, PNC. Those are
PNC,
sort of the most well-known names. There's some others that are like sort of known, like Fluffy and Diggin and Torque. Um, but
Torek. Yeah.
like those, like overall, I'd
No
say this is
super
a
big names. No
yeah.
super big
This
names.
was this was a very surprising dream hack in that sense, and in the end, it was the first place was taken home by Harry Seldon, who's a local Spaniard player. So I saw some of the celebrations afterwards. The Spanish players were very excited, or the Spanish community was very excited, right? As far as I heard, they got like very behind. They actually seem to have quite a big community there in Spain. So it's good for them that they had quite a few players that did well in this event. But I believe even in the Spanish community, Harry Seldon was not very well known. So, AK Wanda, for instance, who's probably the most well known Spanish player, I didn't even know who he was. So, like,
Yeah.
but he knew all the other rest of the Spanish players. Yeah, Harry Seldon managed to take down Ben. I'm just gonna go with calling him that, from the UK in the finals. Um, yeah, so this was a big event. Good to see quite a few, well, majority really newer players making a splash. There were quite a lot of well-known players at the event. They just wasn't really their event, it seems.
Yeah, but also I think this is what's also, it shows that, some like, the whole thing we go back to, it's consistent, sometimes, you have a good event, sometimes it's not your event, and yeah, we look. I mean, there must have been quite. I'm imagining for it to end up the way it did, there must have been quite a lot of upsets,
Yeah.
in the
I
Swiss
think
France.
I think one of the other things that is not to be underestimated is fatigue. A lot of the other top players have been traveling around the world a lot
Yeah,
to to let's say other DreamHacks, or let's say a lot of the American players probably preparing more for DreamHack Atlanta next weekend or this coming
yeah,
weekend. So there's a lot more. There's so many events right now that maybe a lot of players took this one a little bit easier or didn't prepare as hard for it, and then obviously these other newer players just have a lot of hunger, especially the Spanish players, to do well in their own backyard. So yeah, I mean, it was still a good, it's good to see the players. I'd say honestly, the games had probably more misplays than I'm used to seeing in the top 8 and 16 of DreamHack. So I'd say even though these players, they performed well, a lot of these players could definitely improve. And it was interesting to see after, let's say, the spring championships, where you see relatively few misplays, especially from the players that did well, like Hoy, who ended up winning that one, versus now where you see, okay, there's quite a few questionable plays from a lot of these players that did do quite well. So that does show you as well that there is a lot of room for improvement for these players, and that there's a
yeah.
lot of skill still involved in taking your game on from this level to consistently being in those top 16s and top 8s.
Exactly, definitely.
Yeah, so that's all we really have for esports news. Anything else you want to mention or talk about before we sign off for today?
Just looking forward to hopefully see lots of people at the Rush Land. That's
Yeah,
I'm quite excited. I hope it's a success.
yeah, yeah. Russia's going to be pretty cool this weekend. I'm very excited. I'm flying out on Thursday evening um, to come up to Joburg. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a really cool event. I'm really excited to see the admin team have been working really, really hard. Obviously, a lot of them are also involved in the ESL stuff, so I've had a little bit more insight into that side of things because also advising them with regards to formats and stuff like that. So, oh, the one thing we did forget to mention is the actual format for the event is last year is standing,
Yeah,
best of
which is
five.
important.
Yeah, best of five, four pick, one ban. So that means you bring four decks total.
Yeah, of
Uh,
different classes.
yeah, of different classes.
In standard, just to make,
In
just in case
standard,
anyone's
yes,
quite
good point.
standards.
And you and your opponent will each ban one deck from each other as a blind ban, so you won't see your opponent's ban before you ban, and vice versa. Um, and then you need to win 3 games total. And when a deck wins, it stays on. So if let's say I'm playing Pandemonia, um, I am playing Warlock because Warlock's the greatest class, and I beat Pandemonia with my Warlock. I let's say beat his Druid with my Warlock. Well, now he has to change his Druid, and he can't use his Druid again.
In the
Whereas
rest of
I,
that's best of five, just
yeah, and
to
the rest of that best of five. Whereas I have to now stay with my Warlock, and then
until
he
you
will
lose with
maybe,
it.
yeah, and then he'll maybe queue his Hunter because that's the best counter for my Warlock. And then he'll win with his Hunter, and then he has to stay with his Hunter, and now I can't use my Warlock for the rest of this best of five, and so
Yeah,
on, so on. Or if my Hunter manages to upset his, sorry, if my Warlock manages to upset his Hunter, then I could 3-0 with a Warlock in that
yeah.
unlikely
So
scenario.
yeah, so it's different. So just to make sure, like to be clear, it's different from what a lot of other tournaments have in Conquest, where you have to win once with each of your 3 decks. Yeah, you can consist like if you luck, you're good. You can 3-0 with one deck.
Yeah.
So if you bring part. But what's important to note is even if you can 3-0 people, you still need to actually bring 4 decks.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just the important thing. But
So
if
if
you
you're
want,
very
you can
comfortable with a deck like, um,
Pirate Warrior. You can just 3-0
well, I
everyone
was
with
gonna
Pirate
say like
Warrior.
Control Paladin or it could. Trying to think of like more fringe decks, right?
Control Warrior.
So Control Warrior, yeah. If you're very comfortable with Control Warrior, you could 3-0 people with Control Warrior. So one of the nice things about last year's standing is you can bring a little bit more wacky decks like a Warlock, which is why I was using the Warlock example. And people are not necessarily going to be as prepared for it, and then sometimes maybe you can 3-0 or something like that. But enough sort of the strategy. There's a lot you can read about Last Hero's Standing, and you can also look at the Dream Hacks. Those are some of the other major events that use the Last Hero's Standing format. So yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone at Rush and the Kwese Fireside there, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the ESL African Championships playoffs turns out and who manages to take home first there. If Scythe can run the Algerian gauntlet and walk away with first, or whether which one of the Algerian players will be able to claim they're the best player in Africa.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, looking forward to that. We'll
Until
put
next
all the
time.
links and whatnot in the
And then
description.
on next week Monday we'll chat about how it went.
Yeah, yeah, we'll be back next week Monday to chat about how it went. Um, so yeah, please like, subscribe, follow. Follow us on Twitter at Dale Pon for Pandemonia and at Dib_gaming for myself. We'll maybe tweet out some information maybe about the fireside as well whilst we're at it. Uh, and we'll also be obviously updating you with when uh, any other information we have there about the fireside and the event as a whole for Rush. And then obviously like, subscribe, the Twitch channel, the YouTube channel, etc. to keep getting content, and let us know in the comments section if you're going to be joining us at Rush, or if you're interested in any other kind of particular content for us to discuss. If you've got any interesting news you maybe think we missed, or um, there's anything in particular you want us to discuss, or just any feedback you want to give, we always welcome any feedback. So,
Yep.
yeah, thanks a lot, everyone. And from us, signing off. Cheerio.
Cheers.